Hello and welcome to another edition of the Blue and Gold Gridiron Show, where this week we're super excited to have a high school recruiting extraordinaire, all around media guru of Arizona high school football and a fundraising expert as well, Mr. Cody Cameron on the show, and we are going to talk 6A football preview. We had a lot of people I got a lot of good feedback from our 4A episode, so decided to hop on and do an episode here, and Mr. Cameron is extremely knowledgeable on all things Arizona football. It's one of the things I like most about him, is I think he does a great job covering everybody, 6A, 5A, 4A, 3A, you name it, 2A. I think he really cares deeply about his craft, so I have a lot of respect for that. But we're going to talk 6A football, which 29 teams. 6A football is just unreal. How I was looking at this and making some notes and getting ready to do this little broadcast, and I cannot get over how deep. The players are incredibly talented. There's some unbelievable players, but I can't believe how deep the coaching pool is in 6A. There is some amazing football coaches in 6A that we're going to get into and talk about today. But before I do that, I would be remiss if I didn't mention that the Blue and Gold Gridiron Show is brought to you by School Funder. School Funder, the only online fundraising company in America that lets you keep all of the money your team raises. We've used School Funder for a lift-a-thon the last couple of years, and we're able to keep all of that money. You wouldn't give away 20% of the wins your team earns, so why give away 20% of the proceeds they bring in their fundraiser? So if you get a chance, please call School Funder and let them know the Blue and Gold Gridiron Show sent you, as every time you do that, it helps out the show. And while you're helping out the show, number one goal of the show, we're not trying to make any big bucks or any money really at all. We are trying to get as much information and free content out to coaches as humanly possible. And to do that, we need more likes and subscribe. So if you have a chance there, please like and subscribe the show. It helps us reach more coaches. Had a lot of chance, really been a cool opportunity. We've talked to coaches from all over different states. We got a bunch of cool episodes coming out here in season 2. Dropped our first episode of season 2, which was analyzing the Georgia Tech run game, which was a personal fave of mine. But we got a lot of good stuff coming up. So please like and subscribe the show. As taped a lot of things in advance, because obviously the season's getting going. Our freshmen are just finishing up practice. So we are ready to roll here. But before we start talking 6A ball, Cody, why don't you tell us a little bit about your football story? We always kind of ask everybody about that. I'd love to hear yours.
How exciting is this, man? We have the Cody Squared Show.
Exactly.
Here on the Blue and Gold podcast. I remember talking to you about this podcast at the Fiesta Bowl this past year, and to see it kind of transpire in the last 6 to 8 months and see the type of guests you had on. But not just that, I love the way you break down schemes and film across the state of Arizona. Yeah, you being a true fan of the sport and Arizona high school football. And then you made up a great point before, a couple minutes ago, where you talked about 6A having amazing coaches there. You're 100% correct. And throughout the state of Arizona, my background, I'm born and raised in a small farm town in Northern California. My dad's coached high school football now for damn near 40 years, really, really close to 40 years. He was a coach in the San Jose Bay Area, and I was born in San Jose. And then he trickled down south into a little farm town called Hollister, California. And we moved there when I was about 2, and he was the head football coach for, I want to say, about 25, 26 years there. So I grew up with high school football. And I grew up in an era where everybody ran the triple option and wing T and veer option. Really, there was a couple teams that were in our league that started to run empty spread, and watching some of those early Hawaii teams, the early Texas Tech teams, that kind of transpired into more of a spread look. So that was around like that 2004 to 2008 period. I was a high school football player from 09 to 12, graduated in 13. But some of my earliest memories, man, were driving with my dad into the Central Coast and trading game film at a McDonald's outside of Monterey or Santa Clara County. And the old VHS tapes in my daycare was the film office of all those VHS tapes, where you would list the final score and what year it was against those teams. So I was watching film, man, at 2, 3, 4 years old, of a lot of this stuff. And so that's kind of what grew my love for football. And then obviously playing it And he had an amazing staff. Like the coaches I played for, my defensive backs coach, Denny Schuler, who actually just passed away like a little bit over a year ago. His pedigree and the old Pac 8 and the old Pac 10, and then throughout the NFL, he was my defensive backs coach. And so learning from people like that, and then a great mix of alums of the school. There's only one high school in the state, or there's only one high school in the town, and there's still only one high school in that town. So we were the Hollister Hay Balers, so the pride of that on Friday night, it was like a TV show or a movie, man, where the whole town would shut down and then come watch it. So I was a product of small school football. I made my way to NAU. My playing days were over. I got into the journalism broadcasting side, which NAU has a really, really good broadcasting school and hands-on radio station and TV. And I always tell all those ASU grads, these NAU grads are twice as good. As a little jab there on the Sun Devil people, but it's just a competitive nature in me. But I was really, same thing, I was really blessed to have good instructors. Came down here in 2017 and kind of just been in this space since, I found a niche in covering college football recruiting. I really love that space, and not so much for anything, but following the kid's journey I think is really cool. I think it's always positive, right? I don't like to see and cover anything negative. Whether that have to be with transfers or coaches getting fired. I hate all of that. I like the happy stories, and that especially high school football brings so much happiness and good in the state of Arizona and the world. I like those stories. So the college recruiting to me is a really special niche. I broadcast. I do a bunch of stuff on Sports 360 AZ. I host the Friday night wrap-up show on 1580 The Fanatic. So I just kind of around the game every single day. And I love every second of it, Cody. It's a really good time.
That makes so much sense to me. I had no idea, but and I mean this genuinely, your love of high school football really comes through in a lot of your content. And I always kind of wondered that. And Arizona's really fortunate. We have outstanding, amazing media guys. But I mean this from the bottom of my heart. When you cover stuff, there is a genuine affinity and love for it. And everybody, I think, all the guys that cover it like high school football. But I really do think that shines through with you and getting to hear your story. I think that makes a ton of sense of why that probably shines through in your content. And when you get out and are talking about ball and those things, that makes a ton of sense to me. So
I appreciate that, man. And honestly, it's like, hey, we're talking about 6A, right? And I always tell media members coming into this or new people, all they want to do is cover Basha and Liberty and Saguaros of the world, which is great. Those are amazing programs and they're great. But I always say, hey, true high school football, and that's true is not the right word, but you have to cover 2A, 3A, and 4A. You have to, because that to me is so special. You're talking about kids that they're playing for the now. You're playing for the now. That's how we grew up playing. I was right before the years of social media. But all we focused on was the now and being a good teammate and winning for it as a team. That's all we cared about. And so, like, you still see that. You see that in the Grand Canyon region. You see that when you cover Thatcher High School. That is a really, really different, unique perspective than when you go cover a Basha that's got 22 offered kids that are playing for the next 4 or 6 years. And it's cool. That stuff's amazing. And a kid like that exists at the 2A, 3A, 4A. It's just different. And no coach is going to tell you otherwise. It's a different perspective on the game.
I agree with you completely. It's one of my favorite things about coaching in the Grand Canyon is it's a very balanced region. And there's a lot of good stuff in it. And I applaud the AA for the regions they have put together in 6A. There is some fun ones. So, Coach, how I figured we would go about this, we're going to attack every region, give our pick for the region, and then at the end of the show, we're going to go out on a limb here, and we're going to give our open picks and our 6A title picks.
Let's do it.
So I'm excited about it. I really struggled when I was getting this down to 8 for the open because I misunderstood how they're doing the open, and it's basically the open's going to start. You don't get in, and then you got quarter five, six. The 6 and 2.
You lose, you get out. Yeah,
exactly. So it took me a second. I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed, but we're gonna.
Hey, I can multiply by 7 and 10, and that's about it, Cody. So you start throwing quadratic formulas at me, I'm screwed.
Yeah, I miss the old days of PowerPoints where it was 5 points for every win.
Simple.
and you divide by 10. 50 points
I
for
love that.
win, 5 points for opponent wins. You could figure it out. But anyhow, okay. So we're going to start with the Central Region, which is a lot of really good football teams in there. Brophy, Higley, Saguaro, Shadow Ridge, and Williamsfield. So really top one of the top regions in there. There's some great regions all around, but I figure we'll go through each team kind of individually here. Brophy, tremendous respect for Coach Jewell. We had Coach Jewell on. I really enjoyed it. Tons of skill kids, amazing skill kids. One of the most exciting sporting events I've ever watched was an open tournament game last year between Brophy and Prescott, where Dalen Sharper and Uriah Tennett were dueling.
Hand in hand.
And
Love
it
that.
was one of the most exciting sporting events I've ever watched, personally. But when you talk about Brophy, great skill kids. Dalen Sharper, Devin Fitzgerald, Case Vanden Bosch with a ton of rushing yards coming back. Talented group, obviously skill-wise. Coach Jewell we had on, they lose, I believe, all 5 starters and 3 power. I think they have one kid that maybe started part of the time, but 3 power 4 kids they lose from that offensive line. So the line is where it counts, but they got some difference makers, and not to mention one of the best staffs around. Mark Martinez, one of the best offensive line coaches anywhere. Obviously, Coach Jewell has expertise in the O-line. And then what a great addition they pick up late in picking up Brian Cole, who has one of the better resumes in high school football, period. Amazing football coach. So this is a staff that already, Coach Cotton, their OC, this is a loaded staff top to bottom. So they're going to get them going. What do you think about the Broncos here?
I think Brophy knows exactly what they need to do, and that's get over the hump of beating a Mesa public school in the playoffs. I mean, that's point blank, right? Brophy's roster is loaded, and it's been that way for a couple of years. So much credit to Jason Jewell. Amazing football coach, great culture builder, and the staff he's put around has been a top staff in the state of Arizona for a couple of years now. Another name, Tony Tabor. Great coach, longtime head football coach, coaching that defensive line. The beef up front, who they lose. That offensive line, you mentioned it. Every single kid off last year's offensive line had, I think, combined 50-plus college opportunities. Just an insane amount, and all rightfully so. You got to replace those kids. They have kids coming up that will be good. Some young, some that have no experience. But, hey, every team's going to be looking at that and go, that's like us every single year, right? So they know what they need to accomplish. Nobody feels bad for them. The thing about Brophy, though, is their work ethic. They work tremendously hard. All those kids you mentioned, the Fitzgeralds of the world, Dalen Sharper, they work, man. They're not just getting by because they have 10 to 20 offers. They work hard all year round. So I look at this Brophy team, and to me, they do this. I'm not saying they don't do this. I just want to see them continue to do this. All those mouths to feed on the outside on the X and Z are great. Pound the rock. Pound the rock. Even with the newer offensive line, pound the rock. Especially in this region, Higley, Saguaro, Shadow, Williamsfield. You control the line of scrimmage. You win the turnover battle. Brophy will be fine. And so I look at that situation and I go, and we'll get to them. To me, they're still on the cusp. Do I have them in the open? Do I not? I guess we'll see later in the show here when you put me on the spot. But to me, they're an open quality team. But just like last year, too, they get out of the open in 6A. It's still, hey, we need to win the 6A title. That's the expectations are there. Whether it's we're winning the open title or the 6A title, I think to me, that standard right now for that program is we're winning a title.
I would agree with that. And they do have a loaded roster. Moving on to Higley, obviously Eddie Zuby, tremendous football coach, has done a great job. They do lose their top 3 receivers. They have their returning rusher, Antonio Young. And by the way, if I mess up anybody that has been spinning on the transfer portal, I apologize. But Richard Obert's article on the 20 impact transfers helped my knowledge here. They got a young man by the name of Jaden Rhodes, a lot of sacks. A number of different tackles last year, had some sacks. Eddie Zuby always does a great job. I think I believe they had Noel Mazzoni for a couple of those years as their offensive coordinator when they won some state championships. I don't believe he's there now. But Coach Zuby's an outstanding football coach. I think Higley moving back up from 5A should be in the mix. I think they're a 6A playoff team. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think they're just more equipped than the last time they moved up. Last time they moved up, they did have a power forward quarterback in Kai Miller, who was committed to Cal, played a year there with the Bears, and then dropped down to NAU. But this Higley team is deeper. They're deeper, and the last couple of years when they've had that 6A crossover game against Williamsfield High School, which is right down the street, they have pummeled the Blackhawks. And that's a really, really, really good Williamsfield team. So I think in terms of the kids believing in themselves, where I don't know necessarily when they jumped up, which I think was 2020 or 2021, so either they had that 8 to 10 game span. I don't think, there were some games where those kids looked on the other sidelines and were like, this isn't 5A. I don't know if we have a chance here. Just being around that team this offseason, I think those kids believe that they can beat anybody. And I think that matters to some degree. And then Coach Zuby and their defense coordinator, Coach Baker, who just accepted the wrestling job too, which is only going to make your program better when you're defense coordinator. Now you're wrestling head coach too. Perfect translation on the gridiron. I think the toughness. I think those kids are just tougher right now, and that's a credit to that coaching staff. They realized, I think, when they first made that jump up, when the AIA moved them, we're like, hey, they took care of business. Those years they played in 5A these last couple of years, their quarterback, Gunnar Grell, is a state champion winning quarterback. He was starting quarterback in that 5A game where they beat Desert Edge 2 years ago. They made the Open last year. I think when you look at those kids, they are tough. And I think same thing. That is a guarantee. I can guarantee they'll be a playoff team.
Moving on to Saguaro, obviously trying to bounce back from a very rare, tough year. Very deceptive in 6A when you talk about records. I don't think you can talk about records because there's some of these teams, their schedules were so brutal.
Oh, brutal. Yep.
They were competitive in a lot of games. Obviously, starts and stops with their talented quarterback, Marcel Jones. They would have returned all three of their top receivers, but I believe Aiden Whitaker now at McClintock High School. But they have some weapons back, and if you look up and down, just looking at some of the box scores, they had so many sophomores and some freshmen playing, so I believe that's going to bode well for Saguaro as they I don't anticipate Saguaro is going to be 1-9 again. Your thoughts on Saguaro?
Yeah, and Marcel Jones is one of the most explosive quarterbacks in the state of Arizona. So these teams that are game planning, they have to game plan to keep him in the pocket. But even that, he does such a good job of, hey, if that A and B gap's open, when he drops back, he's taking it, and it's going to be hard to catch a kid like that. He's that good. Here's the deal with Saguaro. They got 5 to 6 Division I kids still. So anybody looking at that goes, hey, the roster, would take that roster in a heartbeat. Like, they have that talent. The lack of depth up front is going to crush them if they have injuries. That is a point-blank fact. They have spots there where they cannot afford to lose a kid against some of the teams that they're going to play, because if they do, that is going to be tough. So when I look at Saguaro, on paper, 100%, I don't think that's a season where they have, in terms of win-loss column, like there should be no way that they lose or they only win 1 to 2 to 3 games, right? But if they get injured, and you're in that 6A gauntlet, that's tough, And so the way that these conferences are all built, you had they were all seeded 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 compared to last year. So we're all being the number 5 team there. That's not, the Saguaro SaberCats aren't the worst team in a region, okay? But it's a tough region. You get hurt, and then you have to go play Brophy or Williamsfield, and you got 2 offensive linemen banged up. Those teams and those coaching staffs are going to target that. And so that's the only thing that worries me about SaberCats. They do not have the depth that a lot of these 6A teams have.
I had the same conversation with Coach Zupke when he was talking about how they put the regions together, because he said, I don't really have an issue with it. I think it was good, but he was talking about, for example, I believe they had a higher rating than, say, Chandler. And if you're basing that on last year.
Chandler's not a 3.
Yeah, if
that's
you're
not
basing that on last year, you're saying, but he's like, this is Chandler. Like, come on. So it's, I think that's a strong point. We had Shadow Ridge's head football coach on a couple weeks ago. I absolutely loved it. It's going to get released in a couple weeks. Hall of Fame coach from Michigan, Coach Zidnowski. Yep. I loved the episode with him. They got a really talented wide receiver, Michael Cruz, a defensive end that had a number of tackles. They got a great long snapper. I know they've added some pieces with guys coming over, transfer. This guy's a Hall of Fame coach, and I can tell you from our broadcast with him, really, really knowledgeable. It was really cool opportunity for me to sit and learn from him and pick his brain on some stuff. I think Shadow Ridge, I'm not saying they're going to make big waves because 6A is brutal, but you're going to see big improvements from this team. I think they sneak into that 6A playoff mix this year? Your
Yeah.
thoughts on the Stallions?
I know Coach Zadefsky really well from his time at Hamilton. He is a culture instiller immediately, and then he gets people out, and he gets the most out of his players. And so that's exactly what he did at Shadow Ridge. That school has a lot of kids. He's gotten a lot of kids out. He's getting kids that are bought in, attacking the weight room, which is huge in the offseason. And looking at his schedule, if he can beat Mesa and Westwood, he will make the playoffs. And so I look at those two games, his first 2 of the 3 games with the Vegas team mixed in. I have no idea how good that Vegas team is. But if he can beat Mesa and Westwood, they will make the playoffs. They got a tough stretch on the back, especially with their region. And that Shadow Ridge team making the playoffs will be huge for those kids. So I think right away, which is good, right? You want to tell every team, we got to focus on week 1. We got to focus on week 1. Well, if you're them, that's a huge game 1. Because if you can beat those guys, you set yourself up for a playoff berth, and that's where this team needs to be.
Moving on to the last team in this region, then we'll give our picks as the winner. Williamsfield, I know Coach Campbell's really excited about this team. Starts up front, number of guys with offers, including, I believe, Coach's son. 3 offensive linemen with offers. They got a stud backfield at Corshawn Hill, Q Skillings, and they like to pound the rock. Coach Campbell, quarterback. Incidentally, he tells one of the funny, I've heard him tell a story of the infamous injury where he got injured and came in for Ryan Keeley, and he was down, and he was with a buddy, and I won't even get into the whole story, but it's funny stuff. He's an interesting guy too, and a phenomenal football coach. Obviously, his father was a longtime successful football coach, and he has had a Arizona Hall of Fame career. So I expect Williamsfield to bounce back in a big way from struggling last year.
This is one of my favorite teams in the entire state this season, not just because of roster, but his staff that he's put together. He's added probably some inside info. Added like 3 or 4 longtime Chandler coaches on the staff. A lot on the defensive side of the ball, and those guys are extremely knowledgeable. They are part of the Sean Aguano tree and then also the Rick Garrettson tree. And that tree has won a lot of football games, and they know how to coach. And so when you surround these players with people like that who generally care, and their goal is, yes, to make you teach all the things that football teaches outside the field, but also prepare you to win. Let's be honest, right? These coaches aren't here to go 0-10. Williamsfield, that's a plain fact, right? Williamsfield to me, and this will segue to your question, Williamsfield to me is my favorite to win this region, and here's why. The offensive line that you mentioned, absolute red graders. His kid, if you watch his film, amazing. His ability to get to the second level, his athleticism. They do a ton of play side pull with him where he's working into the secondary, and he is pummeling kids. And he is stride for a lot of these kids. So the athleticism there, the base that he has, and then the 2 running backs, Cody, they are like molded as exactly what you want in terms of 6 foot, 200 pounds, and can run. And you got 2 of them. They got talent on the outside. They got a defense that's got some young 2027 kids, and they can hit, and they are physical. So they have all the pieces, and now it's putting it together for a full year, and I think this is the team with the match with the coaching staff where I look at serious threats. They play Basha, I want to say, and I'll clarify, they play Basha week 3. That, to me, is one of the biggest games in not just the state of Arizona, but pretty much in the Southwest West Coast. Because Basha, with their 20 kids that are going to D1, I want to see if that Williamsfield team can match the physicality. I don't know about match the speed. Basha's got so much speed, but match the physicality where those kids go, we believe in this, and we're going to punch these guys in the mouth. If they show that, they're going to win the 6A Central.
You stole my thunder there. I should have known.
Sorry, man. Yes. And this is, we didn't talk prior too.
I love their style of play. Yeah. And I thought I was going to sneak this in as a sleeper pick to win the region, but I have them and Brophy 1-2 in this region is my pick there. But we'll move on to the Desert Valley, another one really exciting region. Obviously, as far as region champion, probably going to stop and start with Liberty. But first one to talk about in the Desert Valley region, you got Boulder Creek, you got Centennial, Liberty, Mountain Ridge, Sandra Day, O'Connor, a lot of good teams in there. But we're going to start out with Boulder Creek, who has a talented dual-threat quarterback, linebacker that had a number of tackles. Boulder Creek is a team that's been they always, occasionally every year, they'll steal a win that you don't anticipate them getting. I think they do a good job. And I know Boulder Creek, and I'm not going to venture down the transfer path, but I know from what I understand from a lot of coaches, if Boulder Creek was ever able to keep all their kids there, they would be a championship type contender.
100%, man.
So I just know what I've heard there. But interesting team, Boulder Creek. It'll be fun to watch them as the season progresses.
If you had the amount of talent just stay in Anthem, because you're right, they've gone to Pinnacle, they've gone to Brophy, they've gone to O'Connor, which is sad. I love the community at Anthem. The kids are tough. Talk about stealing wins. They were one play away from beating Hamilton last year. They had that game won, and I think Hamilton scored a go-ahead touchdown with like under 20 seconds. Those type of games, those kids are so tough. You mentioned their quarterback. I watched him this offseason. Kids got quads that are like tires. It's because their coaching staff, they must hit legs 3 or 4 times just working posterior chain, man. Those kids are ready to rock, and so they're used to tough schedules. You look at their region, and it's Centennial, Liberty, O'Connor, brutal region, and they always have a tough schedule, and they have a tough non-region schedule. But these kids are tough. It's one of those things where I understand people are upset when a 3-7 team makes the playoffs, but there's 29 teams in 6A. If a Boulder Creek with that schedule goes 3-7, they're making the playoffs. It is what it is.
And they should. I really think they should. I had a little mini Twitter argument with a couple of my 6A buddies, and they misunderstood what I was saying. I was not saying I had any problem with 2 state champions with the Open and 6A. My only issue was maybe make the Open 4 and then make the 6A tournament even better.
Yep.
That was my only minor complaint, and I am a little worried about the 8-9 Open game and the 7-10 games to get into the Open. Do you see, and we saw this all over the state in soccer and basketball, and I'm hoping that football is above this, and I have so much love for the sport. I do think it is.
The losing the game to go in.
Trying to lose the game to get into the 6A tournament. I don't think we'll see that in football, and I really hope not. But
I think we have too proud of teams to do that, right? I would hope we do. But I say hope, I just know that because, like, say Queen Creek was 8. Travis Sherman would put a freaking sword through his heart before that ever happened.
Yeah.
And, he would put, if he thought his kids were doing that, he would put the shoulder pads on himself and go play that football game so it didn't happen. So, like, those teams exist, right, in 6A, where I don't know if they do in basketball.
Blood runs thick.
Runs through him, man, so, like, those teams, I think there's enough teams that are, like, give me that shot with Bastion Liberty for that to happen, but kind of sticking into this and going into, like, the Coyotes here, like, of Centennial, which is a great point, too, because it kind of leads into what we're talking about. 3-7 last year when they started 0-5 or whatever, and then ran the table and won 6A. I look at Centennial too, and I look at these schedules, and yes, granted, last year was an anomaly for them in terms of the amount of transfers they got coming available week 6. But they also played, the thing about that first 5 games, they played freshmen. They played so many freshmen, more freshmen I've ever seen that play at Centennial, and then a ton of sophomores. Okay, now all these kids have a year experience. And I look at, and then, the quarterback transfers to California, and people ask me all week, what do I think? Is this it for Centennial? Absolutely not. They are so talented. They have kids lifting, numerous kids in the 500-plus range on their 1-rep max squat night that they had in their power night like last week. Centennial is totally fine, and they are littered with kids, which I'm sure you have there in your notes.
Well, and the thing about Centennial is they know the formula. And my experience coaching, anytime you get, and I'm as Coach Taylor, obviously replacing his legendary father, who's still going to be there as the defensive line coach. When you have defensive-minded coaches, the formula, play good defense, run the football. Play good defense, run the football. If you do that, you give yourself a chance in any game against anybody. And that formula is tried and it's true, and it will continue to be successful for the Coyotes. I think they will not miss a beat. I have them. I'll just give them I have them in the Open. So we'll see what happens there. I have them in the Open here. But moving on to to quote the Nature Boy, to be the man, you got to beat the man. And until somebody beats them, Liberty is the man. And I know from talking to Tom, who you work with at Built, he says watching those Liberty practices is just absolutely amazing. And I know Coach Thomas, one of the best high school coaches in the country. Obviously, they got a lot returning on defense. ASU commit Zeth Thus. They got a number of a couple other returners on a tough defense, replacing a lot offensively. From what I understand, they do have a couple pretty solid receivers. Braxton, I'm going to butcher this name, Huney, and Caden Segal, a transfer running back from Tonopah Valley that I know people are expecting big things from. But again, this program has put themselves in a position where until they get beat, I don't think you can say they're not the favorite to win the whole deal in the Open. So
yeah, Kings. Yeah, to me, it's Kings on the throne until they're executed, and they haven't lost to an in-state team since 2022 when they lost to Saguaro, which they were up by 2 touchdowns in that football game, and then they got Devin Dampiered the last 2 series.
That was one of the most incredible second halves I've ever seen in high school. It was unreal.
It solidified Jason Mons going to ASU.
Yeah.
Like that game was incredible. And they are machines. Tom's right. I watched them at camp, and their efficiency and practice, and it's a standard you have to coach and build up to. But their efficiency and what they do, it's incredible. It's July, mistakes are happening, but like all the mistakes they make, so to speak, full speed, so much. They are so violent, so violent. And that's their standard. And guess what? It translates. It translates.
Clearly. So
yes.
We'll be discussing them as we get here into the Open stuff. Mountain Ridge, obviously, a new head coach with a tremendous pedigree, part of that Saguaro dynasty. They have a running back, Easton McClanahan. Mountain Ridge is a school that I know has been hurt by transfers, and obviously there was an unfortunate situation a few years ago with the coach, and that obviously I think has to hurt a program. I mean, let's be honest. But I think I think they got the right guy in place to rebuild it. So what do you think about Mountain Ridge maybe making, and this is such a tough game. I haven't seen their non-league schedule. Do they have a chance to create some momentum?
They have a quarterback that I watched last year, and he just picked up his first D1 offer to Portland State. So building momentum on that is huge. And I just look at, their first game's against Cactus. A 5A crossover game. It's tough, though. Coach Billis does a really good job. Have to win. All caps, have to win that football game. You don't win that football game, you start the next ones with Pinnacle, and then you join a gauntlet later, or Liberty, Boulder Creek, and Centennial. But some very winnable games. Mount Point, Desert Vista, Valley Vista are all in there. Have to win the Cactus game. Pinnacle game, play your toughest. Let's see what our kids are made out of in terms of adversity. But Cactus, to me, have to win. If they do that, I think we're on the roll here. Once again, Pinnacle, see what it is, and then compete against Mount Point, Desert Vista, Valley Vista. Put yourself in an opportunity where potentially you could be a 4-1 before you start your gauntlet. Potentially, maybe you catch Pinnacle on a bad night. Now we're talking 5-0 type of thing. So the momentum, the whole thing about momentum to me, and a program like this with a coach heading into year 2 where he really didn't have an offseason last year, came in so late, that's tough. That's tough to do. You want to build momentum. You want confidence in your kids. And I think when you look at the schedule, they can make some stuff happen.
Yeah, I think you could see some things out of Mountain Ridge. Last team in the regions, O'Connor. Obviously, 3 offensive linemen with a ton of offers, including one that committed to Ohio State, I believe.
Yep.
And some stud. I know they lost some pieces to the transfer portal skill-wise. And I've heard really good things. A good friend of mine, Aaron Gronwald, who worked with us, was a friend of the new head coach there. And I know he's an outstanding football coach. And again, this has absolutely nothing to do with him. I don't see how you go away from Brian Cole. And again, no disrespect to their
you're talking on the admin side. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not talking about him at all.
Yep.
So just to make that perfectly clear. But interesting stuff there with O'Connor. They're always a very tough team. I know Coach Cole had a great weight room culture, and everything I've heard about their new head coach, Koulis, is been unbelievably positive. So give us some insight into Sander Day.
I love Ben Koulis. I got to know him really well at Kellis when he'd go to camp with us. And I think it wasn't changing, so to speak, the culture, because I agree with you. I love Coach Cole. He is awesome. He was one of my favorite Twitter follows in 2019 through 2023. Just hilarious on there. Just so funny. Coach Koulis, brings something that he accomplished at Kellis, which when he inherited a Kellis team that was awful, awful, awful. And he made those kids believers. And I believe last year, I think they won 8 games or won a playoff game in Tucson. Had a kid go to ASU off that. I think when you talk to these O'Connor kids, sometimes it's just, it's not that the previous regime, just stuff happens, right? I think it's just a refreshing thing of we're ready for a new start. And those kids are excited. The offensive line you talked about, they are freaking butt kickers. That Tucker Smith kid who's committed to Ohio State, amazing kid. And so Ben inherits a team that has already senior leaderships. And when you have senior leaders like that are so bought in to the weight room culture in the classroom, it makes your year one a little bit easier, right? And so I think O'Connor will do good things. On terms of the skilled players and quarterback situation and stuff like that, I think we have to see. But I know what? They're going to move some people up front. And I think defensively they're going to fly around a little bit too. So it's a team that I can guarantee will be a 6A playoff team.
Well, exciting region. Obviously, I think we're both in agreement Liberty wins this region. So we will move on to, I think this is one of the more balanced regions in Arizona. Only 4 teams in the East Valley. But D Ridge, Highland, Mountain View, Red Mountain, I think 3 of those teams could easily win the region. Excited about Desert Ridge with the new head coach. I know they have a pretty decent receiver coming back, a running back by the name of Jarrell Price. Coach Beeman, I don't know much about him, but from what I've heard, is a really solid football coach. And I've seen some of his stuff on Twitter. Seems like an excellent guy. Obviously, in a really difficult region. Getting D Ridge back to where it was is going to take some time. I don't think it happens overnight, but I do think he makes some strides in year one. And Coach Lopez, outstanding coach, good friend. I love Roy. He's a great, great man. So I know you know the kids were well coached and things, but Jimmy's and Joe's matter. So
100%, especially at the 6A and the schedule that they have. It's just a situation where I hope the administration gives him 4 years because he needs it, right? Like he came in and his staff and it was pretty much all from Castile. And to show what those guys did, heck, they were losing to Highland in the playoffs last year when Coach Newcomb, Bobby Newcomb, who's now at Dobson, was suspended for the game. They were down like 21-0, 28-0. And if you said that about Highland, Highland's probably going to roll 56-0 to win. And Desert and that Castile team, when they were all at Castile, came back and won that football game. It was the first round of the 6A playoffs. And that was under Jeremy Beeman. He's a really good coach. He's soft-spoken. I just want it to be a situation where he can build it because this year is going to be a tough one. When you look at the schedule outside of the Cienega and Gilbert game, there's not a lot of games where the Jags are going to be favored. It is what it is. And so I think you have to give him 4 years to build onto that.
I would agree with that completely. Murderers row the rest of this region. Any of these 3 teams could win it. Yeah. I'll give you a little count. I'm not going to divulge which one, but I have 2 of the next 3 in my open. Anyhow, Highland, one of the best coach teams in the state. I believe this is the, you can correct me if I'm wrong, is this the 47th Cullimore that is going to be?
Yeah, like 53, something like that. Yeah, the Cullimore.
Cullimores there are, but they've been at Highland, it feels like, for 20 years making plays. Yep. So I believe this one, Cruz, another tough running back, Peyton Gill. Max Brown had a number of touchdown catches last year. Like I said, phenomenally well-coached team. This team could do a lot of things in this region.
We go down the 3 here because to me, I have the same things to say about the next all 3.
I agree.
Highland, Mountain View, Red Mountain. Let's go off this. Butt kickers, amazing coaching staffs,
yes.
Kids that want to punch you in the mouth.
Yeah.
All 3 of these teams, they are. I love watching Highland, Mountain View, and Red Mountain. To me, watching their kids, they are so technically sound. When you watch, and they do a little bit of different stuff. Red Mountain runs a really unique defense where they're pre-snap raidering like crazy. They move their secondary players just all over the place, which confuses the heck out of offense.
Is one of the best.
I love Kyle. Kyle's awesome. And Highland does the same thing. They move everywhere. They have one of the best young defensive coordinators in the state in Coach Rudder. But gosh, these head coaches, Brock Farrell, Andy Linton, Kyle Enders, we're talking about some of the pinnacle of head football coaches in the state of Arizona, and their teams are freaking butt kickers. And what I love about all 3 of these teams is They are so proud to play for their schools. Once again, I love Chandler Unified. To death, I love Chandler Unified. But, sometimes there are programs that get 15 to 20 transfers, right? And those kids aren't 4-year Basha Bears, and it's just different. A lot of these schools, Highland, Mountain View, Red Mountain, a lot of them, they get a couple transfers here and there, but they're community-based. And they're really, really close. They are really close programs, and they coach that way. And the kids, when they lose a game, it's freaking hard on them. But, as a former player and competitor, I never wanted to see me lose. It's more than just winning. I understand that. But as a former player, when I lost, I was not a good loser. When these kids lose, they take that personally, and they want to get better. That's why I love all three of these programs. Their Friday night, that matters to them.
I had the privilege of coaching at Red Mountain for 2 years. It was a great experience. I think Coach Enders, I think the world of him. I think he's an incredible coach. I think they got a great offensive coordinator. Chris Andriatis is back there coaching, Great guy, Virginia Tech player. Immense respect for their program. Coach Litton, I coached against once. One of my when we were able to take over at Poston Butte, they had struggled the year before. We went 4-6, but we lost 3 games in overtime from a team that hadn't won a game the year before, and we were in every game. Minus, we went down to Marana and played Andy Litton's team and got our teeth kicked in.
Was that 16?
It was 16, yes. And he is a phenomenal football player.
Yes, he is.
All these teams. Great coaches. Obviously starts with the quarterback, Brady Goodman, Talon Arnett, stud linebacker at Red Mountain, Jamison Wade. This region could go any way, but and this is going to tip my hand on, I have them in the open. And this pains me to say it because, like I said, I was Roar Lions Roar for 2 years. I have the Toros winning this region. And
let's go. But, hey, that's a smart thing because the amount of skill players they have coming back are great. That 16 team, was that Borghese sophomore or junior season, Trent?
It's kind of a blur because we got beat so bad. I think it might have been sophomore.
Well,
I don't recall.
The reason why I ask is because watching Andy Litton quarterbacks from Marana. He was the offense coordinator at Hamilton for a little bit. Then he was the head coach at Horizon. Watching the Andy Litton quarterbacks and the way they progress, Brady Goodman is could be the best he's ever had. Brady is so talented. And a lot of people only watched Brady last year, throughout the state of Arizona, right? Because all you guys are coaching and playing and stuff towards the postseason. When most of you guys were done playing and watching him in the 6A title game and the semis, they beat Brophy. The kid had one leg. He had a high ankle sprain, and he couldn't plant on his back foot, so he couldn't plant, couldn't move, and he was sitting duck in the pocket. And he still led him to the 6A title. It happened in the quarters or something like that. But it kind of just shows you the toughness of the kid, and then just how he's progressed. He is Andy Litton's perfect model quarterback is what he has. And all the skill players around them, Mountain View put up, I don't know the points per game, but say they averaged 40 points a game last year. They could probably get pretty close to 50 this year with the amount of talent they have. They are so loaded where it's every single series, the expectation is to score a touchdown. Forget 3 points. Every series we should score a touchdown. That's a dangerous football team. So I like your pick. I'm gonna disagree with you, and I'm gonna go with Highland. The reason why I'm gonna go with Highland, is I think those kids them losing last year in the 6A postseason, which usually they run the table in there. I think the kids that are back are really hungry defensively, especially in the back half. Their secondary is so loaded. So Grady Crandall is one of the best safeties in the state. He's back. And then at corner, they're loaded. And then Brock Farrell, he's got 3 running backs. They're all built the same. They're all going to hit the A and B gap and just truck people. I'm just taking the Hawks. I think they're the deepest team. I think all of them are well coached, but give me Highland to win that region.
One of the coolest parts about all these games being on is I spent a lot of time in the summer as we were doing stuff for our team, and I went back and watched a ton of 6A football. Obviously, it's hard to do in season. The Mountain View Red Mountain game last year, schematically,
Oh,
That's
so
such
fun.
a great
Yeah.
matchup
Yep.
because Coach Andrews is such an amazing defensive coach. Formationally, I thought Mountain View busted out some stuff that I was like, oh, that's
Yes.
good. That's
Yeah, put them in binds. Yeah, especially,
really
yeah,
good
puts them in
stuff.
binds, especially in the boundary.
Yeah,
Yep.
100%. So I'll be looking forward to seeing that there. But some exciting stuff. We'll move on to the Fiesta region, where we got Chavez, Chandler, Hamilton, Pinnacle, and Valley Vista. We'll start out with Chavez. My experience with Chandler Hovick, I saw him. They came to camp here when he was the head coach at Central, and you could see firsthand this guy's a culture builder, this guy's a relationship builder, and now he's doing it at his alma mater. And another school that I know it's been talked about for a long time, if they keep all their homegrown kids, this is a team that is legit contender if they can do that. Now, that's easier said than done. They got a really talented running back, Ferris Jenkins, and I know he's excited about this team. Kind of going back to Mountain View, I believe from the looks of it, their schedule appears to be a little tougher than it was last year for Chavez. Mountain View, same thing. Their schedule, can they do that SEC-like grind every single week where it's somebody like that, will be the question for the champions.
Yeah, I love Chandler Hovick. He's the best, and everything he's done at that school. And you're correct. Like, I've been here since 2017, and it just seems like every 2 or 3 years something just brutal happens. COVID taking away the talent that was at Chavez because Phoenix Union said, we're not going to play. That roster was so loaded with talent, and it spread around Chandler, Liberty, Centennial, and Saguaro. And most of those kids were starters, and that was sad because that Chavez team has been great. And then obviously the very, very sad, unfortunate thing that happened a couple of years ago. So it's like you're starting ground zero 3 different times in the last 8 years. If anybody can fix it, it's Chandler Hovick. But you're exactly correct. I still don't know if depth-wise they're at that point where they can go to war every Friday because they need 100 bodies or 80 bodies, whatever total number that is. I just don't think they're depth there, especially in a region with Pinnacle, Hamilton, and Chandler. But if anybody's going to get the most out of their players, it's Chandler Hovick.
100%. 100%. Chandler High School now, new head coach Ty Wisdom, been tremendously successful everywhere he's been, from Horizon to winning a state championship in Nebraska. Did a really nice job the 1 year he's at DV. They made the playoffs. Obviously, wide receiver Jai Jones, stud quarterback back. Expect big things from Chandler. This is an offensive-minded coach that does a great job everywhere he's been. So I think last year was a blip on the radar. I know a number of young players played for Chandler. I think the Wolves are back in a big way.
Yeah, that offense can be fast. It can be efficient. They're going to get the ball out to their skill players, and they got plenty of them. So same thing with Chandler. I think Chandler, the expectation's always going to be up here. And that season last year, man, even with the win-loss record to being how it was, they were beating Basha midway through the third quarter until Will Menzel snapped his elbow. And so Menzel back, hopefully has a healthy season all year for the Wolves. And I agree with you. I think they're going to make some noise.
Hamilton, a super sophomore wide receiver, Roy Oliver, running backs back. They got those 2 stud twins on defense. This is a common theme. I'm not sucking up. Most of 6A is phenomenally coached.
Yep.
Just outstanding across the board. I said it at the beginning, the depth in the coaching in 6A is incredible. Hamilton, open contender. I think Hamilton's one of the schools, they win 6A, they're probably disappointed.
100%. They want to be in the open, and they want to beat Liberty and Basha. It's one of the few teams where physically and athletically they can bang with those 2 teams. They almost knocked out Liberty 2 years ago. They put up 42 points on the Lions and had like 500 yards of total offense. And then Basha every year, minus I think last year, but like in 23, 22, when Basha went on to win that state title, they should have beat them on a Thursday night at Basha. Those kids at Hamilton do not fear anybody. They are ultra talented, young in some spots. Roy Oliver, phenom sophomore, but once again, we're talking about sophomore. It's incredible what he accomplished last year. And then their quarterback is a sophomore too, Jack Scully, who got banged up last year as well as a backup quarterback. So you have some youth, but these youth kids are so good. The Jandro twins that you mentioned are both Oklahoma commits. And I keep using this phrase, but if you had to create a player and mold 2 players, the Jandro twins that are 6'1", 220 across the board, holy Toledo, man. those are some college-ready football players. These guys don't fear anybody.
They just look like they want to hit you.
Yeah, they don't fear anybody. So the amount of violence and attack, I use the word violence all the time, where I'm sure a lot of football moms are like Oh, Cody's so big, but it's a common phrase of, you know this. It's good. It's a product of good football, and they don't play. It's not dirty. It's just those guys during the whistle between the lines are looking to physically make an impact, and that's what Hamilton does.
I've had this discussion with my AD. She doesn't like it when I use the term violent. She prefers physical.
Yeah.
So I will say they're very physical. But I understand what you're getting at completely.
I apologize to your athletic director because I've said the word violent 10 times.
No, you're good. You're good. Don't worry about it. So, anyhow, moving on to Pinnacle, one of my favorite staffs. Their O coordinator, Matt Hanshaw, is a great coach. Love him. Good dude. Coach Zupke's one of the most giving and nicest guys and outstanding football coach. Obviously, starts with who's going to be the quarterback. Jackson Reeder, Antonio Casillas, 2 transfer guys. And I'm not a big transfer guy, but why wouldn't you want to transfer to Pinnacle? It's like quarterback high school.
QBU.
So, I mean, I understand wanting to get coached by those guys, a talented receiver back. They got a running back, Gavin Hammond, a number of different players at Pinnacle. Huge numbers, really well coached. He always is so giving. We are able to go to his spring showcase, which we really appreciate. And I love Coach Zupke. I have an episode coming out, I think, next week or the week after with Coach Zupke. We talked 90 minutes on football and special teams, and that 90 minutes zoomed by because he is a great dude. Tremendous respect for him. Expect some big things out of Pinnacle.
Did you know that he's a top disc golfer in the state of Arizona?
I did not, but it doesn't surprise me.
Yes.
He looks
so
like one of those, he's not old at all, but he looks like one of those guys that you're like, this guy's an athlete.
There's a course up by Pinnacle, and I was playing a little disc golf during COVID, and on the leaderboard, Dana Zupke, and I go, how many Dana Zupkes are there in Phoenix? And I texted him, and I go, is this you? He goes, yeah, I've been known to play, and he shot like 15 under or something like that. I'm like, God, this year without a Wyatt Horton. I felt like Wyatt Horton had been a high school quarterback for 8 years. That kid was so special. And so, yeah, that's it. This is an interesting time. Pinnacle is QBU. The amount of talent they've had the last 10, 12 years is amazing. And a couple of those guys are playing on Sundays. And it's just who's going to take the next step. The good thing is when you're in a program like that and they have an offensive line transfer. And I don't know where he came. I don't know if it's Ohio or Michigan, so somewhere from the Midwest. He's a 2027. He is a monster. So, and I think that's an official move. So it's one of those situations where the kid does not have to
get
fit.
Accepted, from what I understand.
Yes. Yep. And he's all good to go. When you have kids like that in an offensive line like that, I always say, doesn't matter who you have out there. You need someone out there to convert third downs and not turn over the football. Because outside of that, you have playmakers. Get the ball to your playmakers. And so Pinnacle will be fine. Guaranteed playoff. I think they just haven't been getting over the hump into the Open. And once again, to me, that's okay. That's okay. Go win a 6A title. Yeah, shoot for the Open. I'm not telling teams out here not to shoot for the Open. But the 6A playoffs is darn good.
Very
darn good.
Very, very good. No question.
Yeah.
Valley Vista, a new head coach with a great pedigree. Man, that's going to be tough. They got a good, solid running back. I know they have a guy that can build it. I give Valley Vista a ton of credit. This is probably a team that maybe could have finagled their way into 5A, and they didn't. So, tip of the hat to them for wanting to compete. I think it's probably tough sledding this year in this region for them.
Yeah. Ryan DeRochers, who was he was a Liberty coach, and then he was the Chandler defense coordinator the last couple of years. Got to know him really well when he was at Chandler. Great person, great human being, awesome. Valley. I don't know anything about their administration. I just would like them, like all these new coaches, the admin to support him fully support him, because I think a little bit of their struggles has been, hey, no, we're not going to give here, we're not going to give there. If you want a successful program, okay, you have, and I'm not saying football kids missing class type of thing, but just support your coaching staff. You have to support your coaching staff. That it has to go hand on hand. So I think if they can have that, I think he can turn some stuff around. He's got a good quarterback who's actually an international kid. And in their media day, he was speaking 3 or 4 different languages. Wow. That's cool. He's got some talent, but once again, you need to support your coaching staff because this is not an overnight change. You're in a region with just juggernauts, okay? It's not an overnight thing. So I agree with you. It's going to be a tough year.
I got Hamilton winning this region. beating Chandler last game of the year to win the region. Whether that means what that means in the playoffs, who knows? But I got Hamilton winning the region.
I really don't want to agree with you because I feel like it's better when it's disagreements.
I agree. Well, I think we got something that might be.
But if Hamilton does not have a quarterback injury, which, gosh, I feel like they do every year, Hamilton will roll this region. And I don't mean like they're going to beat everybody by 40. I just mean they're going to put a physical imprint on every single team. So
I could definitely see it. Moving on to the Southeast, another really, really exciting.
Love this region.
This is a very good region. ALA, Queen Creek, Castile. We just had Coach Bushman on an episode released soon. Eric Lauer is one of my favorite people in coaching. Yep. Desert Vista, I have some history. The Moore family, they got a stud receiver, Cale Moore, who I've been friends with their family for a long, long time. And Queen Creek, obviously, starting stops with Tate Reynolds. ALA Queen Creek starting it out. Running back, Bobby Nesbitt back. I know they got Khalil Bender, McClintock transfer, which is going to make their quarterback Britt DeWitt's job much easier. And this is just another tremendously coached team. Didn't miss a beat last year with some of the switching around that happened in the ALA schools. ALA Queen Creek's been in the open, and I don't see any reason why they shouldn't return.
Yeah, the one thing is they have so many new defensive players. That defense they graduated last year was so talented. But that is the only thing I see, and I don't even use that as a con, because once again, that happens yearly to most Arizona high school football teams, right? Because I saw them at camp, and they are machines. They are so well coached. They're so efficient. Britt DeWitt, Idaho commit, and he'll go after his 2-year mission. He can freaking sling the rock. Bobby Nesbitt, their running backs, added about 15 pounds of good weight. They have so much talent on the outside. They got a future power forward tight end. And defensively, you know, you see a bunch of kids come in, and they don't have a lot of experience. If anybody's just, you know, looking at box scores and max preps, are like, oh, these kids, and I'm watching them go through tackling drills. I'm like, their form is impeccable, and they're tough, and they're sideline to sideline, and they run to the football, and they're 3 technique runs to the football, and they're doing all the little things right. And I agree with you. I go, that's a tough team to beat when they're all in unison like that, and their 3 tech on their pursuit drills is running down the back receiver. That means something. They are max effort every play. That is an awesome program.
Really impressed with them. Like I said, I really enjoyed the episode I did with Coach Bushman from Castile. He's a extremely talented coach, and I have been will be excited to follow his progress. I'm going to let you talk about Castile here for a moment because I have to step out really, really quick. But I am Castile new quarterback.
I'll take it away.
Smith and Mike Clark, Coach Clark's grandson on the team, Dobson Legends. I will be back momentarily.
I will take this away. I love Castile. I think Coach Bushman is an amazing human being. The staff that he's put together in such a short amount of time is really impressive. He added some old Chandler coaches too off the Rick Garrettson tree branch. And same thing. I think they're in a region right here where they can make some noise. I think they can play. I think there's games that they're going to win, you know, just looking on paper. But I look at that Queen Creek game, and I look at that ALA Queen Creek game, and especially that Queen Creek game, that's been a really good – they're in 2 different districts, Castile being in Chandler Unified School District, Queen Creek obviously being Queen Creek School District, but they're right next to each other. And they're right next to ALA Queen Creek. And so that's kind of developed into a little bit of a rivalry here. And I think Coach Bushman's team can make a statement going, you know what? We're going to play these guys, and we're going to beat these guys. So I think if they can make that statement, it's big for Castile. And transitioning now to Corona del Sol, yeah, I know you, Cody, you said that you're a big Eric Lauer fan, and so am I. I think Coach Lauer, not just what he does on the football field, but what he gets from his kids off the football field, I think is really, really cool. I look at his Corona team with Luke Farrell, who's a 2027 lefty gunslinger. He's picked up like 8 to 10 Power 4 offers. I think he can accomplish some things offensively. We're talking Corona del Sol now, by the way. We've transitioned to Eric Lauer. I was saying that the Aztecs to me with Coach Lauer, and Coach Lauer, as you know him well too, What he gets out of his players, not just from on the field, but in the leadership and the role models. I think it's something where it's great. The problem with Corona, and it's totally out of the control of Eric Lauer, is they go Williamsfield, Pinnacle, O'Connor, Perry, and Queen Creek to start the season. That is brutal. Brutal. And if you lose anybody in a key spot, like a quarterback who is a Power 4 quarterback that he has, it is tough sledding the rest of the way if you lose that, especially when you go up, after your Week 5 game and you have to go play the Bulldogs at Queen Creek. So I think that's an uphill climb. But I don't, knowing Eric Lauer, knowing the competitor he is, I don't know if he'd have it any other way.
I agree completely, and he's had his teams up at camp here a couple times when he's at Mountain Point. I got a surprise for you. I think Desert Vista makes a little bit of noise. I think their schedule gives them a chance to get 4 or 5 wins. They got a good running back that rushed for a number of yards, good quarterback back, and stud linebacker Andrew Hoyt, the aforementioned wide receiver Kale Moore. So excited about DV. I hope they can do some things.
I love Coach McSpadden. All I've ever wanted from DV since Dan Hines retired. Coach Hines was amazing, by the way. NAU alum, loved a couple of the same sports bars that he was. His stories of some of those sports bars at NAU are amazing. Love Coach Hines. All I've ever wanted was consistency and backing of coaches there, and we just haven't had it. We had like 6 coaches in 6 years at Desert Vista. So Coach McSpadden finally going into year 2. He's run that weight room for 2 years, so his imprint's starting to be kind of made on there. I agree with you. I think it's a schedule they can win. It starts with the Chavez game up front, and I honestly, 3-4 months ago, if we're doing spreads, give me Chavez by 2 touchdowns. Chavez lost 3 or 4 starters. They transferred to Mountain Point. I think that game's a lot more even now than a lot of people think, and I think that's a big game for Desert Vista to kind of get over that hump and start believing in themselves.
I agree with you completely. Moving on to my pick to win this region in a barn burner with ALA Queen Creek, recovering from, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but ALA Queen Creek put it on them last year. I think Queen Creek nips them this year and wins the region. Obviously, quarterback Tate Reynolds, good returning rusher David Rawson, RJ Jackson. They got some really good players and one of the best coach teams in the state. Another phenomenally coached team. I think they just squeak by LA Queen Creek to win this region.
I think the Bulldogs probably go 0-10 and don't accomplish any goals, and then Travis I don't know, just says I'm done. That's probably. So here's the thing. Yeah, so now I get to clip that and send it to him. He loves Travis Sherman. He's probably one of my closest friends in the coaching fraternity. Every time I say anything, he calls me, which is great, and then goes, "Next time, just say we're going to suck." So I go, Travis Sherman, the first time I ever met him was a 2017 game. His Queen Creek team, who was in 5A at that time, played a Hamilton team that had Tyler Shuck, Brendan Rice, Jawar Jordan, who's also playing in the league, a bunch of these guys. And Queen Creek put it on them with a bunch of kids that looked like kids that I grew up with in a farm town who were just tough and physical. And their center, Dakota Banning, was like 5'10", 205 pounds, and just kicking total butt all game. That is Queen Creek football. They're just a little bigger now. He's got a powerful offensive line. Tate Reynolds is carved out of a Madden creative player. He's so special. And they're physical and defensively. I'm going to disagree with you. I still think ALA Queen Creek is just that game is so fun. When is that? Is that a week 10 or they moved that to like
week 10 last year? I don't know if it's
it always week.
I should have my
week.
Schedule handy.
It's week 6 is the only, or week 7. That's the only thing I don't like is that's a rivalry game. I like rivalry games to be the last week of the season. I just always kind of like that. Man, that might change my pick here. It's weird to say if that game was last there, I'd probably choose ALA Queen Creek, but. Queen Creek stays healthy, they probably win the region. But I love it, though. I love that competitive game. I love that game. I love the game between Queen Creek and Castile, and I love the game between Queen Creek and ALA Queen Creek, because high school football is better with rivalries. And Queen Creek versus ALA Queen Creek, that is a true rivalry. Those kids do not like each other. And I think that's good. I'm not promoting hatred. I just think it's good for the sport when you have two teams that don't like each other.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but hey. Final region, the southern region, obviously going to be. There's too many D1 guys and unbelievable guys. Noah Roberts, the tremendous quarterback. There's too many guys on Bash's team to list them all. But they got so much talent, so many different places. Top 3 tacklers are back. They're just loaded everywhere. The backfield, obviously, multiple guys. They have a stud running back that was number 3 that went to Perry, probably rightfully so.
Yes.
And I don't, this Coach McDonald, good friend of mine, really enjoy. We had him on early on in the episodes here. Great football coach. What else can you say about the Bears?
I love Chris so much. Every time you talk to him, he acts like he's coaching a 2-8 team that's got no players. That's the type of that standard he's built, where it is really win a state title or bust type of thing. And I can't even imagine that amount of pressure, and he puts it on himself. But here's the facts: they could play an imperfect game and still beat most teams by 40. That's how much talent they have. And I'm excited for Coach Mack because he gets to call the offense this year. And I know that's something he's been looking forward to. So the name to watch out for. Noah Roberts is special. I'm talking he's not – I'm not trying to make a Bijan Robinson comparison, but I haven't seen a smooth runner like that since Bijan. So the fact that we're even talking about that is crazy because Bijan was Bijan. But Noah Roberts is so smooth. The player to watch out is Josh Gaines. He's RB2. He is built like a bowling ball, and he runs like a runaway train. He is a monster. He's the perfect spellback to Noah Roberts, where if you want to put Noah out in the slot or spell Noah, Josh Gaines is going to put a hurting on some teams. So that's my name to watch out for. And Bash is Basha. They should compete in that state title game for the next 3 years with the amount of talent they have.
Going to break this region up into 2, Mesa Westwood, which is kind of a rivalry game, and then we'll talk Perry Salpointe. But Mesa Westwood, Coach Hathcock, quarterback, I believe I just found out in the article today, Hudson Mitten is going to be the quarterback over there. Coach Hathcock, an amazing coach. They got some guys with offers. They got, I believe, their top 3 tacklers back. They got a good running back. And Coach Hathcock knows how to win, plain and simple. That said, and I have immense respect for Jeremy Hathcock, I'm looking at their schedule and going, they're going to be a playoff team.
Yeah.
Getting to 5 wins with their schedule
would be huge.
Because it is a rough schedule. Tremendous respect for Westwood, another team that maybe Skyline and Dobson kind of found their way into 5A from Mesa. Haven't seen the Warriors do that. Very proud program. ASU commit Sine Tenge. I'm sure I'm absolutely butchering.
No, that was perfect. I just talked to him this morning. Sine Tenge was on the money. Nice job.
Right. Well, I'm happy with myself then. They got a stud running back, Marcus, and Westwood's got a really strong program. Brandon Large, their head coach. I remember coaching against him when I was at Dobson many moons ago in 2006 and 2007.
When he was the quarterback at Westwood, the high school.
For Eddie Zuby, who was the head coach at Westwood at the time. So I think both these teams could do some things.
Yeah, you know what's funny? I talk about the last game of the season. I'm excited because these two teams meet week 10. And to me, that's the pinnacle where it's – I agree with you. I think Mesa's probably more with the point structure. I think if they win 4 games, they're in anyway, right? But I think if Westwood comes up to be game 4, I'm pulling up the schedule. Give me 1, 2 – say they're 3 and
I'm going to let you do Perry Salpointe. I'll be back 1 second.
Perfect. I would go 3 and 6 with these guys, and I think the winner of that game is guaranteed to make the playoffs. So I think that's what makes this game so special. Is that Mesa Westwood game is your ticket to making the playoffs. All right, Salpointe Perry, Joe Ortiz. Cody, you said you had him on. Fantastic coach. And he truly believes this is his best skill group that he's ever had. So I'm excited to watch Kel Snyder. It's going to be Kel's junior year. I'm excited for Amos Augustine, a stud sophomore wide receiver. And then going to Salpointe. I think Coach Ryden, who stepped in last year, and did a really, really good job as his first year being a head coach last year. They had a huge win at Centennial. And looking out is that Marana game. That Marana game that they did not win last year, I'm sure they have circled big time. And so I'm really, really excited to watch South Point Marana. And then they play, Saguaro, Red Mountain, A Lake, Queen Creek. That's a pretty good gauntlet right there. And finishing with Basha Perry. South Point's got a very, very, very tough schedule. And that should be another team that wins 3 games. They should punch their ticket to the playoffs no matter what because of that. So I don't know. I to me, Perry, huge last year for winning 2 games against Chandler. That was big for Joe Ortiz. This year, I think the expectation is really high. They played Brophy again come week 3, and I think that's going to be a situation. They played Broncos pretty tough last year. I think that's a situation where if Joe Ortiz can win that one, he's setting up for success there. So I like the Pumas. I want to see how that defense plays. He graduated a lot of kids, and that defense will be on full display when they play a Highland and Chandler. They're going to be tested there between a Brock Farrell and Ty Wisdom team. So, but to me, in this region, as we click back here, every team in this region can make the playoffs. I think we'll probably get 4, and that Mesa Westwood game is the game that people are going to get in or not. So, I think that's kind of the big one right there. So, which is. Create 29 schools. When you do this with the 4A teams, this got to take you like 2 or 3 hours, Cody, which is pretty crazy. But now the 6A, I'm excited to talk about who you think is going to make the Open here, because looking at this is really the first time I've really looked at it, and you have kind of like your guaranteed 4, right? And that's Liberty, Basha, a Centennial, a Hamilton, and then it starts trickling in a little bit. And that's where I think it gets really, really interesting, which is a perfect segue. You coming back in. I was leading into the Open 8, the initial Open 8 without the drop downs and stuff, because my question to you was, this is my first time looking at this, and to me, I think everybody knows you have a Liberty, a Basha, a Centennial, and a Hamilton that's like a guaranteed lock. I haven't seen anything out there that does not have those 4. Who are the next 4?
I got Highland, Mountain View, Queen Creek is my surprise, and where the heck is my last one? And in a bit of a shocker, Chandler.
Okay, so you know what's crazy is when the East Valley region the last 2 years had Highland, Mountain View, Red Mountain, Queen Creek, and Williamsfield. Like that region together, such gauntlets, and it all made these teams better. So going to my 4. After the Hamilton, Liberty, Basha, Hamilton, and Centennial, that's where I disagree. I think it's Williamsfield. I think Williamsfield beats Brophy. I think they beat Brophy, and that solidifies them. And they play Basha week 3, so once again, I think we're going to get a good litmus test of the Blackhawks there to see where they are. But Williamsfield would be 5 for me. And then we go into the 6A East Valley region. Highland, Mountain View, and Red Mountain, the winner of that region will for sure lock in. So that's where I have Highland. That's where I have the Hawks. Would be my 6. And then we're looking at a 7 and 8. For you said Chandler and Mountain View. I need to see Chandler a couple more times. Give me ALA Queen Creek in there. Let me double check. ALA Queen Creek's schedule is pretty brutal. Hamilton, Red Mountain, Chandler, Liberty. Oof. Or give me the Bulldogs. Let me see. Am I getting the Bulldogs in here? Boulder Creek, Chavez, Centennial, Bash. Yeah, give me the Bulldogs. I'm going to put Queen Creek High School in there. I've seen Queen Creek enough where I'm going in there. I like that. That's my 8. Which is good. It's the first time I ever gave out my 8, which is cool. Which is amazing. I like that a lot. And now we get the 6A title, which is a heck of a talk. I think Queen Creek, if Queen Creek goes, the split Centennial Bash, I think it's going to be Queen Creek. I like the Bulldogs here. I think Cody's coming back in. Let's see. Yeah. Yeah, I like the Bulldog. Yeah, that's my 8. I'm going to go Liberty, Basha, Hamilton, Centennial. Oh, what did I say? Highland, Williamsfield, Williamsfield, Queen Creek. Gosh, I don't know. A-Lake Queen Creek that's tough. They have such a brutal schedule. I don't know. I don't know if A-Lake Queen Creek is going to be an open team.
Cody, you are the man. I apologize profusely.
Good. I was wondering where I was going to go with the top 8.
I apologize profusely. I'll talk to you a little off air. But anyhow, good stuff. Good stuff. And appreciate everything. Like I said, I don't know if I got a chance. My 6A final, I have Red Mountain Pinnacle as my 6A final. So that's my 6A final. 9 and 10 get in there, and I think the Open is excited. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate your expertise on this broadcast. You are absolutely amazing, and we always love you, and you're always welcome at Prescott. So thank you so much. So if you have any final thoughts on the 6A season.
My final thought is I love that Red Mountain Pinnacle matchup. I think that's amazing. My back half was like Queen Creek. I think Queen Creek might make it just looking at their schedule. ALA, Queen Creek in there. And I think, once again, you lose that first round, you drop in. I think the 6A playoffs is going to be amazing. I'm interested to see how the format looks too. But also, I get to see you, I think it's the day before Halloween with that Prescott Bradshaw Mountain
baby.
Game.
Bradshaw,
I love
Prescott.
that.
All right. The
So I
Bears
get
are
to see
loaded
you.
this year. Last year was a classic. We're going to play hard this year. We'll see what happens. It should be another fun one, but I'll look forward to that. Thank you, everybody, again for joining us. We'll see you next week for another episode of the Blue and Gold Gridiron Show.